Hello! Tonight, on a very special Hey, Did You See This One? We're answering a black phone, and we have special guest Cameron Maitland in the house. It's time for Hey, Did You See This One? Oh, hello, it's us again. We're doing a show. We're here. It's Thursday night, and everybody's watched The Black Phone, the most boring horror movie I've seen in a while. I think I turned the music off. Did I? You hear it still? Weird, because I can't hear it. Okay, I got it. All right. Tell me if you hear this, though. Tell me if you hear this. Weird, I can't hear that. Trippy. Okay. It could be. It could be that I've mucked it all up. Just do some quick technical difficult.
It is.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. It's Thursday night. We're here. We're talking about a movie. I'm your host for this evening. Special guest on the show, as I mentioned in the intro, Cameron Maitland.
Can we get an applause button for that?
Yeah, we absolutely can. Well, let me take that again. Special guest Cameron Maitland. Where the fuck?
Wow.
No,
I knew it was coming, and I still got me.
The wave.
I love how we totally talked for a while and then I just fucking botched all of that. I'm joined as always with my pals and co-hosts Steven and Kaylin. How's everybody doing tonight? That's great. So we like to start the show up every week with going around the room and talking about our history with the movie. So what I like to do typically is let the guests go first. Cam, I ran down how the show works. Basically, just give us your wild, vast history with the movie The Black Phone.
I have some history because I did see it in theaters. It was at a time where theater going, I think it was 2021, the summer of. So I think it was still a little dicey and a lot of people didn't go, but it was actually kind of like a nice time to go to the movies. And this movie, oh no, sorry, 2022, never mind. There was people there. This movie had a lot of hype. I think it took like a while to come out because of the pandemic. And I think that there was a lot of just like good buzz on it. You heard Scott Derrickson talking about it a lot. I seem to remember the trailer played for a long time. They maybe had a trailer for it way before the movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was curious about it. I like it okay. I think we'll get into it. I got my qualms. I don't hate it as much as you did, I think. But I was happy to watch it again.
I went a little bit too hard at the beginning there. I think there's more to say about this than it may deserve. But there are things to say about it. So with that said, Steve, why don't you tell us about your extremely long, varied history with this film?
My lengthy history with the movie The Black Phone.
The Black Phone.
I remember seeing the trailer for this and being kind of interested. I do sort of like psychological horror a little bit more than supernatural horror. Little did I know this movie was going to be so full of ghosts and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. But I do like the ghost stuff in this. But the first time I watched it was actually fairly recently. I think it was March. But it was dog sitting for my parents. So I just was lying there with a pooch. And I didn't, my first introduction to it was probably from the trailer. But it kind of vanished for me. And I'd forgotten about it until it was available on demand services and stuff. And I was like, I was kind of interested, if nothing more than the creepy mask and top hat combination. But yeah, not a lengthy history. fairly recent watch, but like Cam, I was kind of interested to watch it again because I did enjoy it the first time I saw it.
We didn't get enough of the mask and top hat, if you ask me.
I think that's the draw here. I think like unlike Megan, where like which we did last week, like you see the doll and you're like, that's all I need, and then the movie sort of built around that. This one, like the trailer was like the draw, and then they just showed you pretty much a bunch of mysteries in the trailer that are very quickly answered. Like
the phone itself.
I
agree, but I mean the trailer wasn't sort of it didn't give you everything, so there was enough intrigue to keep you going. But yeah, they don't really sort of explain how the ghosts are communicating or why, or it's just kind of like you have to accept it. This is why, because he needs to get out and he needs help from his ghost friends.
That's right. Cam, sorry I forgot to mention that you are here representing the Hollywood Suite television channel.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, semi-officially, semi-unofficially, but that's my whole job, yeah.
I didn't want to... I forgot to mention it to you before the show that I was going to mention that,
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got the whole background. People can figure it out.
Oh, yeah, right. So sorry about that. I just wanted to do a quick shout out to them, too, because their content is great, and follow them on TikTok and Instagram and all that, and subscribe to the channel wherever you can. Kaylin, what's your vast storied history with the film?
Monday.
Period. Awesome. Is there anything you want to add to that? Did you just watch it in one sitting one time? Sometimes you watch it multiple times.
So Monday was my first viewing, and I didn't know anything about it. I don't recall any trailers or word of mouth or anything like that. But I also feel like I've been under a rock for a while. Check out the beard. But yeah, no. So I checked it out on Monday, and I was kind of a little bit surprised. And I messaged you guys. Then I watched it again. Me and Steve checked it out, and yeah, we'll get into it.
So you didn't mention that. You guys have a unique thing this week. It happens occasionally, where two of the hosts will watch the movie together.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to hear, while we're talking about it, how it was.
I mean, I prefer to watch all movies with people. I think it is better than watching it by yourself, because sometimes, without treading over the movie and the details and, the experience of the movie itself, it is nice to be able to make a comment and have somebody else's thoughts on it immediately and not have to hold it in the back of your head until you have a roundtable discussion on the internet with your pals.
About it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
We've only done it a few times with all three of us there, one time with all three of us there, but I generally will try and invite some people over to watch movies for the show.
We watched,
this one is also, I would say it benefited the movie watching it with somebody. I think I enjoyed it more the second time just because I was able to have a discussion.
You trying to tell me you're sneaking in a twofer? You're hanging out with friends while doing homework?
Yeah, it's
pretty
like having
much.
a tutor.
Yeah, it's like you go to the book club and I don't know where I'm going with that. I do like.
Well, I mean,
you've never been to a book club, Jason, have you?
But I do kind of liken this to a book, kind of like a book club where sometimes I watch the movie on 2.5x, and that's like when you get the Coles notes.
Yeah.
I did not do that
you
for
read
this.
with your eyes.
I did not do that for this. I had to watch this in 2 sittings, just because.
Unsettling?
You got too scared to grab her?
No, I was whatever the opposite of scared was. I was I wanted to see what was going to happen next, but I watched it on my lunch breaks at work the last 2 days, which is if you're a watcher of the show, you know that's how I typically will watch a movie. As we've been moving into this place, I don't have a whole lot of time when I'm home. It's like I need to unwind, and that's just an excuse. I'm just making excuses. You guys know me. I just procrastinate a lot.
So you gotta make love on every surface in your new home. I understand.
Yeah, exactly.
I recommend add a little Jello.
Nope, never gonna.
Jesus, Kaylin, we don't need to hear about this.
Kaylin likes Jello milfs.
Are the milfs like Jello, or is it Jello and milfs?
Little column A, little column B.
Okay.
But my history with this movie is that, but also we watched the trailer for this we tried to do a short-lived like trailer show where we'd watch trailers.
Mm.
I might
You
bring
saw this trailer?
One of these.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I might bring that show back now that my internet connection in this place is crazy. It might work, but typically it would just be too choppy to work. But anyway, I digress. We saw the trailer for this movie, and I built this thing up in my head completely differently than the movie is. It plays like a pretty standard, almost like a Stranger Things kind of like the kids are the main characters, and they're trying to figure out this like mystery. It reminded me of that, and it reminded me of I always say 8mm, but that's a completely different movie than.
Oh no.
That's a different kind of pervert.
A movie about kids.
What is the J.J. Abrams one?
The J.J. Abrams one.
Super 8.
Super 8. Not 8mm.
Not 8mm.
Also, isn't that called
Super 8mm?
A great double bill.
Yeah.
About two great 8mm films. What if the guy had in his vault just the movie of that alien from 1980, whatever?
Right, true, yeah.
And Nicolas Cage was trying to find the alien.
That would be great. That might be better than both of the sum of both movies. But anyway, did you make a sound for the body of the movie? You should make it go ooh la la.
Ooh la la.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Ooga.
But that's we're here. This is where we have all the freedom in the world. We just talk about the movie now. I'll mention we used to go beat by beat, but this movie is another one that lends itself to just sort of.
Jason, I got to interrupt you for a second.
Oh, do you now? Oh, do you now? Shit.
I got to interrupt you for a second.
Hold on a second. Oh, do you now?
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
They did not say the name of the movie in the movie.
Wow, what a great first run for that sound effect.
This is great. I understand why your fans tune in every week.
Yeah. I think that we should do more comedy of error fail stuff because this is actually very entertaining.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, that's true. Despite the fact that when they were making this movie, the director was probably like, we could do a title drop. And somebody with a good brain was probably like, we have a literal black phone in this movie.
I'm never a fan of when they say the name of the movie in the movie if it feels forced. Like, have you seen Gone Baby Gone?
They say Gone Baby Gone in it?
Yeah.
They do, and it's the most clunky bullshit you've ever heard in your life. So I think keeping it out is wise as much as possible, unless the movie's called Spider-Man and they have to say Spider-Man a bunch in the movie. Yeah.
And it's also good that this wasn't called The Grabber, which would be a terrible name for a movie.
That's the Asylum version. It's called The Grabber. Here's a thing we can do, though. Here's a segment that we could do right at the top of the show because it's something we could talk about. Do you want me to say what the segment is and then do the sound, or do the sound and then the segment? We're ironing everything out here tonight, people.
You want to Muppetize them?
No, we don't have a sound for that.
And also, we don't do that. We stop doing that.
Steve hates it.
Do the sound first. Do the sound first.
Are you doing a sound right now?
The Home Alone of it all.
Oh, what do we have here?
Hope we don't get...
Are we doing the Home Alone of it all already? Right at the beginning of the episode?
Yeah, fuck it. Fuck it.
Steven and I were debating this the other night.
I'll tell you what it is. So, Cam, just for our viewers and first-time viewers, and if you don't know, I know I told you this because I told you this when we went to see Indiana Jones, but the Home Alone of it all is essentially when Kevin McAllister slaps down the blueprint on the table and starts getting that house ready for thieves to come in, and then just starts fucking WMDing them with fucking pipes and paint cans.
World of mass destruction.
And he
lights
a guy on fire and turpentines them. He fucking tars and feathers them with nails. So in this movie, in my opinion, it's when Finn gets kidnapped.
Oh, interesting.
When he gets kidnapped?
When he gets taken from the movie Taken.
The black balloons, he disappears into the,
Oh, interesting. Because I was going to say that this whole movie feels like it's a buildup of Home Aloneing to me. So like,
Right.
I would say it's towards the end when he kind
Actually-
of pulls an actual Home Alone on the bad guy.
I think I was too focused on thinking about that to realize he kind of Home Alones this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ghosts are like teaching him to Home Alone, basically.
It's just the grabber's luck that every kid that he kidnapped was a Kevin McAllister.
Yeah, they were all parts of Kevin McAllister.
They each got slightly further into the Kevin
Yeah.
McAllister plan.
Do
Okay.
you accept their rebuttal of your Home Alone of it all?
Yeah, I think the Home Alone of it all is absolutely.
Well, I would say that mine is when he fills the phone with dirt. Like that's when it's like
Yeah.
when he realizes that he has to do something to escape, right?
Yeah.
Which is essentially the same moment, I suppose.
And
But
him
when he's
punching
like,
him with the phone is when Kevin McAllister in the second one is just whipping,
Bricks.
lazily
Sure.
whipping bricks off the top of the building.
but I think that out of most of the like, there's some interesting cinematography in this movie, but a lot of it is not so much. Like it kind of felt a little bit lacking at times. But there are a few moments that are like super potent and like accomplish what they're trying to do visually really well. I think that when he is like ghost fighting with the ghost with the phone, where they're both like mimicking the same movement, it's like a pretty powerful moment, and you know what's to come, and you know that he's getting out. That's when you're quite certain that he's not doomed to be buried across the street or whatever.
It's funny you should mention that, Steven. Jason, this is what I think might make you proud of me.
Oh,
His combo back forward back punch is Shao Kane's finisher.
that's awesome.
Wow.
I thought that was extremely.
They should have
stupid.
set that up in the movie somehow.
Like if he was
Made him
playing Mortal
Mortal
Kombat at the start.
Pretty sure Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, set in
It's set in
1978. I'm afraid
1978, Yeah.
it's when Mortal Kombat used to happen IRL,
IRL,
before
yeah.
it turned into a video game.
There is a lot of like street fighting in this movie. A lot of kids
Yeah.
battling.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to mention the credits at the very beginning. They're really kind of efficient in showing you, a lot of movies, horror movies in particular, will show you sort of a montagey moment at the beginning, but to no service to the audience. It's just there to give you like creepy imagery. But I think it's indicative of like a time when kids would go outside and like literally scratch their knees. There's shots of a kid with a bloody knee and stuff, and I'm like, okay, so this is telling us that in the 1970s, kids would go outside, fall off their bikes, and that was just part of life or whatever. And it's also showing the amount of missing kids that have already gotten grabbed. And I think that the moment before that, before the montage credits opener, is pretty good too. Like just establishing Bruce is his name, Bruce Yamada, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Bruce Yamada. I really liked the way they did that because the movie opens with a kind of a really like you think that the Bruce is going to come over and just straight bully Finn. And
Yeah,
then
but
he's
it's
like,
not
"You got a
that,
strong arm, kid," or whatever. And then
Your arm's mint.
your arm's
Almost
mint.
got me.
Almost got me. Oh yeah, because he says that's one of the creepiest parts of the movie, in my opinion. But the lighting of that shot is like nice. It's not. It doesn't make you feel gross. And then they do the opening credits sequence. And what happens is like they're on the baseball field and Bruce is walking home, and then the van pulls up. And he gets got by the grabber, and as he's like, even before he gets got, it starts to like dim, and then it goes into that credit sequence. And when it comes back, the color gradient is like down darkness a few levels. And I thought that was a good thing because like, oh, that sets the tone. Like everything was fine until this grabber man. And the other thing that it creeps me out about it is when I was a kid, I lived in like rural Nova Scotia, and it was one
Grabbers
of those
everywhere out there. I hear.
Yes.
Well, the thing is
What do you
like,
do? Roll a hoop down the street with a stick?
pretty much. But what it did remind me of is the story of the man in the van who comes and throws you in the van, which I think might have been part of John Wayne Gacy's like MO.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm overdoing it, but I read the short story, and the short story is very the grabber is a lot more like John Wayne Gacy.
Okay.
He says that he was a clown. That's his justification for the balloons, and he's a big fat guy.
Yeah. In this, he's a magician allegedly, and his voice. I was saying to you guys,
Allegedly.
allegedly,
What do you think he does that he owns 2 homes?
murders people,
The magician,
murders children, and pretends to be a magician.
He's a hypnotist. He hypnotized the real estate agent,
Yeah,
Nice.
with that
I like
weird
that.
giving him the
spray.
keys.
With that fucking disgusting spray that like makes you blind. But
Also, it was the 70s. You could buy a house for like a
Yeah,
basket of peaches.
that's what
or
I
something.
think. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
True.
But
Market wasn't like it is today.
I suspect that it was very much him just going around the neighborhood, becoming this weird urban legend. But people didn't have any like phones or computers, so like he could very easily hide. But he was I know what I was saying. His voice is a combination between Pennywise and the Joker. He was doing like his best.
Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah.
He also does several voices. Like he's doing a different voice for each persona in the mask. It's kind of unclear to me if has some sort of mental illness where he is embodying different people, or if it's just his emotional swings are going up and down, so he changes the mask on how he's feeling in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really go too deep into it, and it's kind of left up to your own interpretation, I suppose. But
yeah.
Sorry,
I was gonna say that just the other voices. I feel like Johnny Depp, Willy Wonka. there's a lot of that. But yeah, you're right. That I do like that, and the story is the same.
Willy Wonka, nice.
Where he like.
Now I want to watch this movie again through that lens.
Sure. But yeah, he does say the weird things where he's like, I am not the other person that comes and talks to you and stuff.
There's one moment of that in this movie where he's like, that was like, are you the guy that killed the person last spring? And he's like, that wasn't me, that was somebody else. And you're like, was it somebody else in his mind? Or was it literally somebody else?
Nice.
Yeah, I get that. Just before we get off like the little area in the beginning, it kind of took me out of it the way they did the opening credits. It felt like American Horror Story a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, true. Very Seven.
Had very like this is a made for streaming service vibe. But
I was just gonna say that the interesting thing is I feel like that is kind of like Scott Derrickson, the director, is actually kind of like from the kind of 2000s, and his vibe is kind of that, and I think he holds it back a bit because and only really uses it for the dreams and the psychic visions. But like his other big franchise is Sinister, which is all about like fake home movie footage and stuff.
Oh, this dude's the Sinister guy. I didn't realize that.
So I think that he like it's weird, but I do think that he was kind of integral in making that visual. But you're right. You're absolutely right. It's 100% American Horror Story and 100% every streaming show nowadays. It's unfortunate, but I think it's kind of his deal.
I have a funny side tangent about that. I was trying to watch Sinister one time, and I had the name switched, and I ended up fucking watching Insidious.
Sure.
Wow.
It's a pretty easy mistake.
It's a super easy mistake.
Yeah. I'd say even if I was trying to write the word Sinister down, I might accidentally write the wrong thing.
What you have to remember is that Insidious is all about the further, and Sinister is all about Bagul, the eater of children.
Yes, Bagul.
Classic Bagul.
Cool ghost. I actually kind of like Sinister. I don't think it's terrible. Though the use of the 8mm footage in Sinister makes sense, whereas in this I'm like, does she just dream in 8mm footage? Like why are dreams of home movies?
Yeah.
It's totally just so you know when it's happening once you know that's the shtick. But
yeah, it's just a visual choice, but it's like so it's an odd choice, you know. It doesn't feel dreamlike to me, but I guess it kind of
maybe home videos were new to her or whatever. Like that was the thing at the time, so like that was kind of like relevant in her mind.
That's a good theory actually, because it would be very prominent. It would be like how the internet is now. It would be like not now. It'd be like how AI is now, I guess. It'd be like how the internet was in the early 2000s.
We all know that Jason dreams in TikToks.
That's what the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. Give me one margarita. That's Jason's whole dream.
I actually dream in Vine in 7 seconds.
Sure. Iridocyclitis. I get it.
Yeah.
Iridocyclitis.
Did you guys ever think that Coors Light came before Coors?
Did I ever think that?
Well, no.
I don't think I've ever thought about it.
I've never thought about it.
Yeah.
Actually, I know the answer to this. Coors Banquet, I believe, came first. And then Coors Light. And then Coors Banquet was like, it's really bad for you, so they had to change it to Coors Original. But there is also, I don't know if there's like a Coors. I don't know if there's just a beer called Coors. There's just Coors Light and Coors Original, here in Canada anyway. I think Coors Banquet still exists in the States.
You can get Coors Banquet here, I think. It's the yellow one.
Yeah, but it's called Original now.
Oh.
I think it's still called Banquet. Like they have a separate Banquet, and then there's Coors and Coors Original.
I suspect that Coors Banquet is like,
but it did come back in like 2011. I was working at the beer store distribution center when it came back, so like I remember just these like giant pallets of this new beer and it being a nightmare because the warehouse was too small. I hated it. Also, I didn't really like the taste of it.
Ask random questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a great beer segment.
Listen, all I know is that when the mountain shows up on the can, it's cold enough to drink.
Yeah, exactly. I do know that just before we get off this beer the Coors Banquet may be extremely bad for you. Like, it may be like, heart clogging, because when I was in Las Vegas the first time, I went to this place called the Heart Attack Cafe, or the Heart Attack Bar and Grill, where if there's a big the draw is if you're over 350 pounds, you eat for free, and people have died in there. And I remember on the menu they had Coors Banquet in a paper bag. And you
think it would be like if you weigh over 350 pounds, you have to pay extra to get in because they're scared you're going to die in there. Yeah.
Die or break a chair.
Well, anyway, that's a weird fact.
It's a weird fact. There you go. It's
another weird fact about the movie, The Black Phone, is that, like you were saying, it seems like this kid Finn is pretty well liked by the people you want to be well liked by, and then there's just random bullies that really dislike him, and I don't know why, and they don't tell us why, and I'm confused by that fact. The girl likes him, like the pretty girl likes him. Bruce, the cool guy, likes him, and everybody likes Bruce. You see everybody in the neighborhood waving to him. Robin likes him, and Robin is clearly like an actual Street Fighter character. It's crazy.
The kid. So go ahead.
I was going to say all the kids that like him do get grabbed by the grabber.
That's true. Yeah.
His social circle is shrinking.
The grabber likes him.
Yeah.
Well, those three bully kids. There are a lot of bullies. There's almost as many bully characters as there are like good characters. But the three kids are just yelling, slurs at him and just chasing him down. But you're right. I just realized that they really don't flesh that out at all. I fully thought the hole in the ground was just like a red herring because they didn't bring that back for so long. Because this movie does have some moments that are kind of incongruent in that way.
I suppose, but I do like that all the information he gets from the ghosts does come back in that final Home Alone moment where everything that he learned throughout he has to use in order to escape, right? Even like the one that seems the most, even the one that it seems the most useless, which is a fridge full of raw meat. It's like, what is he going to do with this?
Yeah. It's another interesting thing about this movie that I remember hearing about before I went into it, and then went like, what? And now that I've kind of dug into it more, I get is Scott Derrickson. Like the other big thing he did was Doctor Strange, and he's also the guy that like left the second Doctor Strange due to creative differences, and he took on this project partially because he said like he was going through super intense therapy for his childhood, and he like considers this an incredibly personal movie, and having now read the short story, pretty much all of the bullying and all of the abusive father is creations for the movie. So part of me thinks that it's him like exercising those demons in that way, and I think he grew up around the same time. He talks a lot about 1978 was kind of the like year of serial killers when like all the famous ones were operating and Gacy got caught. And so I think a lot of he fleshed out a lot of Finney, especially with like just his personal experiences, because I do think the abusive stuff is like well done for like the abusive parents, but it also kind of doesn't other than the fact that the grabber is also kind of like he also hits people with a belt. So you're like, but it doesn't. Yeah, they don't quite match. It
does feel a little
flavor.
Broken. Yeah, and I mean, especially the father character. That actor, I forget his name, but
Jeremy Davies.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of hit or miss for me in a lot of stuff, because there are moments in this movie, especially where I'm very much aware that it's a performance and it's not. I'm not falling into the character as much as I'd like to.
I wanted to talk about this because the father, Jeremy Davies, you said. He's Faraday from Lost, and in that he plays kind of like an eccentric guy. And then I didn't see him anything for a long time, and he's in God of War. he plays what's the dude's name in God of War that he plays?
Balder.
Yeah, he plays Balder, and in that he's closer to like this character almost. But in this, when he's interacting with the daughter, it came off to me as like a weird overact. Like he's overacting as this like alcoholic, and when he's like hitting the daughter with the like when he's doing child abuse to his daughter, it's horrible, obviously, because it's a very real moment.
But in that moment, I think the performance of the daughter is far more believable to me than his. It is a little bit over the top, and
Exactly.
you know he's supposed to be playing a drunk at 9 a.m. or whatever, but the logic isn't there. But at the same time, as an example of parental child abuse, it is pretty accurate. Parents who abuse their kids often don't see that they're doing it, and there'll be moments where there's like love between the parent and the child, and then there's moments where you fear them like they're an actual monster. You know, it's frightening, but it didn't work for me. But I did like some bits of it. Like I like when Finn gets taken and then she tries to have a conversation with the dad, and he wants to pull the belt out and beat her again, but he lets her talk. And then after that, you see him driving her around the neighborhood to try and find the house, as if though the dream.
Yeah,
he believes at least he's entertaining her idea behind it. You know?
One of the more interesting things I find about the movie is the weird dynamic of like truly before the plot even starts, they essentially get out of the way of like this little girl's psychic, and she's psychic enough that essentially every authority figure believes her.
Yeah.
Like the thing that the abusive father almost exists just to stop her from psychically solving this case immediately, because the police believe her.
Like
the
they
police
believe her
almost immediately,
because they're
which is interesting. I like that dynamic.
They've tried nothing and they're all out of ideas, and they're like, well, this girl claims to be a psychic.
Yeah.
So, and then smash cut.
So she's the lead now. She's the lead detective here. Here's your badge and gun.
And if the police had their way, they would have just immediately deputized the girl in the second scene of the movie, and she'd be like an officer.
Like you could recut this as a comedy. I feel like pretty easily.
Yeah, just change the color grade.
Yeah, I do also think that that's a weird part of Scott Derrickson's vibe, and the vibe of Sinisters as well, that there's always the comedy edge. And James Ransone, that's like Ethan Hawke's brother, that guy is always a borderline comedic performance these movies.
That guy
Love that guy.
From The Wire, notably, and he shows up in a lot of he's in It as well.
It.
Yeah,
he plays like the guy who's always sick or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And I love
this
that
is
guy.
acid, that guy.
I like that the little girl calls the detectives dumb fart knockers.
Sure.
Very quickly.
That one was definitely quotable. Do you think she created the link between Finn and the other kids?
Maybe.
We need a Stephen King multiverse thread of psychic powers to solve this for us, because it's not clear.
It's worth saying this is his child. This is a Joe Hill joint.
Okay.
I do enjoy that Gwen swears like she's on Deadwood, where she cobbles together swear words constantly, and that really
she's
works
good,
for
man.
me.
She's a good, like, kind of well-rounded persona. She's not just sort of a one-trick pony, which is good, like a lot of the other characters.
Yeah, that actor's also been acting since she was like 7, so she's the most seasoned of all of the child actors, I think, which is kind of wild.
Now 8?
Well, yeah, I don't know. She's born in 2008. Somebody do that math. I'm not a math
15?
guy.
Yeah,
15, yeah,
something like that. That's that's great. That they it sucks that child actors are child actors a lot of the time, but you do see these like performances from these kids that
I think most of the performances in this movie are pretty spot on.
They're pretty fine.
Other than the dad for me. Even the detectives are fine, but the child acting in particular, even though you don't really see all of them, I think one of them you don't see at all, except for that one scene where they all appear as a ghost gang.
Where they look like the undead warriors.
Yeah.
Warriors come out and play from the dead.
I haven't seen that in a while.
From beyond the grave. We should do that on this very show.
I'm shocked you haven't. That seems like a real hey, did you see this one classic.
It's true.
We these theme months don't always lend themselves to particular movies. We're going to stay in the theme. But we have in the past done, like, let's do 4 random movies like the old days month.
I like to try and choose my themes loosely so that we can fit anything in. We really try hard enough.
Yeah, next month we're doing Kevin Spacey month.
Yeah. The life of David Gale. Only the sad ones.
Yeah.
I think that before we leave the girl character, there's that one moment where it's like a very realistic version of children fighting, because when you're a child, it's kind of actually difficult for them to do real damage to each other because they're so weak. But she smashes that one guy in the head with a rock, and he kind of gets dazed and sits down for a minute and just is gushing so much blood. But I remember, like, when scrappy stuff would happen when we were kids, you know, if one of them gets hurt, the other ones will leave the hurt one alone to go hit the other one who's not hurt that much, and then the hurt ones would just sit off to the side and be like, "So, you gonna get back in there?" Even if you were fighting against the kid.
And it's funny that she like ends up sitting by the kid that's because she also gets hurt and sits by this smashed kid, and they're like, "Yes, and they're fine with it." Yeah, I mean, this sister character is really interesting to me too, because that is also the sister's kind of in the short story, but she's older, and it's only like lightly implied that she has this psychic connection, and she's barely in it. So I feel like this is pretty much wholly made up for the movie, and it's a pretty interesting side. And I mean, it's mostly red herrings and like kind of trying to mess with you, but it works. I think that plot, you kind of actually wish that she was able to be more helpful, you know, overall. But yeah,
this had kind of a similar vibe to Stephen King's In the Tall Grass. In that they took a short story.
Also co-written by Joe Hill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Joe Hill, eh?
Stephen King's son. The one that doesn't say king.
Yeah.
Interesting.
As for the other kids, I think
so much like him. That's fucking creepy.
Genetics. I think that Robin rules, even though he doesn't really get too much of an arc or anything. But you know, being a beater of bullies, and then also being the kid who's asking for help and stuff, showing that there's a real vulnerability there. But my one question is, can you get suspended for failing too many tests? Is that a real thing that has existed, or it's got to be no, right? You're there to learn.
No, you can get left behind, or you can get like failed.
Failing a grade is not
1978 seems like it's a whole other world. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
you could probably get suspended for being Mexican back then.
Yeah, there were truant officers in this era, I'm pretty sure, where if you were skipping school, a police officer would come to your house and fucking...
But it doesn't sound like he was skipping school. It just sounded like he was not good at school, and they were threatening to suspend him if he didn't get higher marks on his math test.
I feel like the weird thing is the kid speaks like perfectly fluent English, but I think that they kind of imply, because he said that the teacher talks too fast. Is his problem with math.
Sort of like an ESL kid, but still able to speak it and read it, but not follow as quickly.
Yeah.
It's also just some teachers are just shitty teachers. They don't care.
All of my teachers are shitty. Nobody taught me a goddamn thing.
Oh my gosh!
They taught you not to get taken by that van person.
Yeah,
that's
not
true.
Grabbed.
But that thing was like more like and this is something I wanted to bring up. I lived in a place where like these urban legends, like the melting pot, the primordial ooze of these, like, you know, Marilyn Manson got his lower 3 ribs removed.
Sure.
And people always wonder.
We've all heard that one.
Yeah, and I was also I thought it was going to be Marilyn Manson's The Kid from the Wonder Years.
But that's another one I was going to say. But the thing, they're all about Marilyn Manson. But my point is like
Marilyn Manson drives around Nova Scotia in a van, kidnapping kids.
I mean, if anybody's going to have a bunch of black balloons, it's Marilyn Manson.
But I think my point is like this is the kind of area I grew up in, the kind of area where these kinds of things come from, and people always wonder like, how do these get spread? It's because kids are bored. Kids were bored in the 80s and 90s, and we just come up with things, and these rumors are very easy to be spread by wildfire because it gets, you know, one older brother comes up with some crazy shit.
There's even a line though where it's like, you know, the sister is saying, Gwen is talking about the grabber, and Finn is saying, you know, don't call him that. It's not a good thing to talk about. And they're adding that sort of urban legend flair to it, sort of like a Bloody Mary or whatever. If you say his name, he'll come for you.
Don't even say his name.
She sort of loosely implies that everyone was calling him the grabber, but now even the newspapers are calling him the grabber, where it's like it started in the playgrounds and made its way up to the news broadcasts and stuff like that, which is kind of interesting and cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna ask beyond the urban legends that if you guys had was there like a child crime when you were a kid that loomed large in your childhood? Because we definitely, my neighborhood, there was a little girl that got abducted that only got solved like 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and it really just like it truly did. And not that I grew up in 1978, but it really did change our childhood from like, two kids go walk to the park to like that doesn't happen anymore. Like no, there's an adult with you pretty much all the time now.
I didn't have any like murders or crimes, but on Halloween every year, the younger kids would get all weird about the older kids and say that they would like, beat them up and pull them into the ditch and fucking steal their candy and just rain terror. But like, I never witnessed it. I never saw it. I think it was just.
I was just scared of everything. So it's like, I was scared of the wind making too much noise at night.
And Jason, you probably didn't see that because you were so busy beating up those kids and taking their candy, right?
Yeah, that's true. I watched too much In Search Of when I was a kid, and I was deathly afraid of UFOs coming to take
Bigfoot?
me.
Oh, UFO, sure.
And Bigfoot, because I lived in like I said, rural Nova Scotia, surrounded.
There
by
actually
forests.
was a massive UFO sort of phenomena going around in the early '90s when I was a kid. Like everybody, there was like TV specials on weekly, being like, "What strange lights in the sky?"
And you guys did Fire in the Sky, right? Am I misremembering that? Did you guys do that one?
No, I
you
do
should
have it
do
on
that
my
one.
list. Yeah,
because that one is like pretty fucked up. The two that kind of came out around then were super disturbing, and there was always ads on TV when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember having the regular movie network and them showing the ad for Fire in the Sky constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And being like, I'll never watch that. But
Big crime, O.J. Simpson. That happened when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You kept waking up in a cold sweat. OJ's gonna get me.
OJ's gonna get me, Mom. Lorena Bobbitt.
Mom, don't let me marry OJ. Yeah, Lorena Bobbitt.
Lorena Bobbitt cut that man's penis up and threw it in a field.
Yeah. Joey Buttafuoco's gonna get me.
Beat me up.
Yeah,
UFOs
name? Though were the big one for me.
I was I mean, you're thinking of Jeff Galooly, right? That kneecapped Nancy Kerrigan. Is that what you're thinking of?
No, there's some like it's.
The Long Island Lolita.
There.
Yeah. You're thinking of Buttafuoco's. Yeah.
Buttafuoco's like murderous girlfriend, mistress.
Yeah. Amy Fisher.
Amy Fisher, that's the one. That's the one.
She actually didn't kill her. She just shot her.
Oh, well, that's
attempted murder.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, while we're on the topic of like being terrified, there's that scene where he's watching a movie after his dad passes out, and it's a black and white movie with a bloody hand coming out of a
Cam,
bathtub.
I'd like to start a new segment called Cam, you're on the show and you know every movie. What movie was that? Or
you know what? I actually don't know, and I meant to Google it while we were talking because I'm like, I would like to see that movie.
Especially if that's its like effect. If it's like the opposite of.
Yeah, it was cool, like a Wizard of Oz ship.
Yeah.
Like
you know what?
I say that the reason I bring it up is obviously it was an interesting part and an interesting looking movie. But if I had seen that when I was a kid, I would absolutely have had the same reaction that he had. It's like I gotta get out of here. It reminds me of Ghostbusters 2 with the goopy bathtub.
That's what it reminds me of as well.
Which also scared the shit out of me when I was 7 or whenever I saw it.
Purple goo.
Purple goo.
Yeah, the pink ooze under the city. I can't seem to find it right now, but maybe we'll.
I'm wondering.
Later,
I'm wondering if it was just made up for the movie.
No,
it looked pretty authentic.
Looked too authentic for it to be, but maybe it could be.
Well, you guys keep talking.
Yeah, Bloody Hand movie. We'll figure it out, folks.
The coolest kid in the world comes to his rescue. This kid
is
a superhero.
It's The Tingler. It's a classic. It's a very weird movie. It's like one of the William Castle movies where they're like, The Tingler is in the theater. It's one of those.
Okay. Also, the operating title for this movie was called The Tingler.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Does it say there whether or not does it have a blurb about how the red, the blood is red or anything, like the blood is in Technicolor, but
Yeah, it's probably, yes, it showed a sink in black and white and bright red blood flowing from the tabs. Though the Tingler was filmed in black and white, a short color sequence was spliced into the film.
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a fun one actually. It's Vincent Price. He's like there's this weird bug that feeds off fear that lives in your spine. Like essentially, if you terrify somebody enough, this bug like bursts out of them. And then like truly, there's a part of the movie where it like turns into help, there's a Tingler loose in the theater, and the only way to stop it is to scream.
That's cool.
And there was buzzers on your seat in the real theaters at the time that would make your seats vibrate.
The original D-Box. I'm surprised they never remade that. Obviously not with the... Well, maybe they make it campy and they have that scene in it, but I'm surprised they didn't use that idea.
It's not a bad idea, and it's a pretty gross little bug, I will say. It's kooky. It's corny, but it looks gross. And it's a creepy bug, like, crawling all over people. It's a giant fucking centipede. I don't know.
Thinking of those like stop frame animation bugs from the Next Gen season 1 finale. On my notes here, nothing to do with the Tingler, but still to do with Robin. When it shows Robin's missing poster, even in the poster, he's posed like a fucking badass. Like he's got his arms crossed in his school photo, just like mean eyeballing the cameraman, stealing his lunch money.
No, he is good. All the kids are pretty good, and they're also mostly made up. They're like fleshed out. Bruce Yamada is the only one that's in the short story. There's kind of implied that other kids are on the phone, but Bruce is the only one that gets anything.
What'd you say, Caleb?
How do they find him, Finn or whatever, in the short story?
It's there's still a black phone.
But like, if you said the sister, like they lay her down or whatever,
ends before they find him.
Ah,
yeah, he has a dream of his sister finding the black balloons, and actually the kids on the phone tell him that your sister really found the balloons, and nice. But it ends pretty much where he's choking him out. It's like it's a little cornier that I think wouldn't work in the movie, where the phone starts ringing and Finney goes, "It's for you," which is pretty good.
I like that. Shit. At the end of that, they like right at the kind of the climax. He's in the hole. He's beaten up and he's choking him out, and then he puts the phone up to his ears, and they all do their catchphrases at him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was something you don't see a lot in horror.
Yeah, it was
movies.
The Avengers Assemble moment.
Exactly.
I liked how their catchphrases kind of had like dualities to them. Like they were clues during like the building up to that point, and then they were also the final word to the bad guy at the end.
Yeah.
In their own way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all have like everything they said applied. So the one thing that left me wondering is what the point of the breaking into the meat locker was.
For the dogs, or for the dog.
To distract the dog.
He gives the dog meat at the end.
I fully didn't put that together.
You don't see him go back in the hole, but that's like the implication. He kind of looks at the.
He throws the steak over, and the dog eats it, and he can walk up.
Yeah.
That's
it's
awesome.
an important thing that seems completely useless when he first finds it, which is why he has a breakdown right after that, right? He starts crying because he's like, "I'm never gonna get out of here." But it's like, no, you if you didn't have that meat, you wouldn't have been able to get out of there.
It was one of the best cries in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think his interaction with each kid was also interesting as well. Did you guys get the vibe that Griffin was kind of probably a little shit in real life?
I guess.
He's like constantly laughing, like he's like a dead ghost kid laughing, but he's also the one that makes him have to escape, right? Or he's like, you have to escape now, or he's gonna get you. Mm-hmm. But so he sends him out there, which breaks the trust, I guess, that the grabber has sort of built between the two of them. But I got the feeling that he was like, I don't know, enjoying himself too much as a ghost. He seems like he's up to no good.
He had the most like personality. Maybe was he the first person killed? The first kid?
Yeah, because they do. I was gonna say they do have the weird thing where they're kind of losing themselves and don't remember who they are. So
Yeah,
maybe he's become a little more sinister.
So this
I like
movie,
that.
this movie isn't like overtly scary, but I found the scary parts to be like the psychological. Like we talked about this for that last Child's Play movie, where like it's not a scary movie, but like thinking about these kids like shooting at each other, not knowing because Chucky's like come up with this elaborate ruse. Just thinking about these kids like being in like a purgatory or like undead world and not knowing anything about themselves, like that I think was the scariest thing. And I was like, all hope is lost for Finn. He's trapped here. Like, how does he even get out of this? Obviously, it's all going to work out in the end because it's. But maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's the draw of this thing. It ends in not a happy story, a happy ending. But what it will say, another thing that I was bummed out about is there wasn't a lot of like jump scares or gore. There was a kind of a jump scare when they like the flashlight goes to like the kid hanging upside down.
Yeah.
But the head wound, the axe to the head part was by far the best like horror
Surprise.
movie moment.
Yeah. And that actually shockingly is in the short story.
Oh,
I kind of
really?
figured that was pure movie because I was like, that's a great movie moment.
Yeah,
But
that is a great
then when I
movie.
read the story, I was like, shit, that's fucking in the story. Weird. But yeah, one of the things he said, Scott Derrickson said he's really inspired by The Devil's Backbone. I don't know if anybody beyond Steve has maybe seen that, but it's kind of more of a weird hanging out with ghosts. Like it's more like a crime thriller with ghosts, if that makes sense. And there are a few moments like weirdly the grabber fucking up his ankle is like straight out of Devil's Backbone. But yeah, it's kind of an unusual. It's a Guillermo del Toro movie, so it's like kind of that vibe. And I think he hits it sometimes, but it is weird because it's otherwise somewhat traditional, like you say. It has the vibe of a horror movie without really being a horror movie.
This could be in the Cabinet of Curiosities. I think.
Sure.
I think that was. I only watched a couple of them, but they did kind of have.
Mhm.
The
you
ones,
could totally, if you remove all of the, the sister storytelling, you could just have him in the basement as a short episode, and it would work. I think more or less the same. Not to say that I didn't enjoy the movie for what it was, but I think you could trim a lot and make it a short film.
A note that I made in my notes was worst escape room ever.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's just really bad at escape rooms. Because I feel like I could have got out of there.
He had to use up all 5 of his hints to get out. That's a little escape room humor. If you've never worked in an escape room, you might be like, "What?" But yeah, a little behind the curtain. The people running the escape room, we had a certain amount of like hints we're allowed to give, and once you exhaust those, you're fucked. Essentially.
Or you had scripted beats that you had to hit within a certain time period, so we would try and give you hints based on where your progress was at what point during the hour.
A little friendly nudge.
It was a lot more of an equation than people probably realize, not having been behind the curtain.
Exactly. I had one guy come into the escape room one time. I don't know if you guys were working or remember this, but he like just was a dumb fucking guy, like just stupid. And he like pried open the box with the final key in it. And he was like, I got it open. And everybody's like, that's not how this works. He's like, but I got it open.
It doesn't matter. And then you take the key from him and put it in your pocket, and you're like, I'll give this back to you once you solve the puzzles, you idiot.
I think
once you have fun.
Yeah. He was like, and I was like, bro, like we were this close to just ejecting him completely because you can't, like, he's ruining everybody's fun. He's not playing the game right. And he's stupid. He's dumb as fuck.
And to top it all off, he was an idiot.
Room movie.
The best we had of that was, and they were very nice, but there was like a dental office where the guy was kind of like like a wear gold chains, like dentist who fucks, and obviously he hired women in his office that were just like truly bimbos, and they were all very nice, but they were not interested in solving puzzles, and they were just like doctor whatever, like, and it was like 7 people, but he was the only one who would solve any puzzles, and we would try to give them hints, and then we just kind of gave up, and we're like, okay, let's just try to find a way to speed this one guy through every puzzle.
If only we had a black phone.
If only we had the black phone.
Yeah, there was actually one in San Francisco that was great, and it was kind of similar to this, except you would be the ghost. on the other end. So
I've
you'd
heard
have
of
all,
this, yeah.
and it was like a time warp or a time loop sort of thing where the same person would be coming in and then the lights would go off and it turn back on and they would be dead. And you try to like call them on the phone and give them hints. They're an actor behind glass and they would have to do all this stuff based on the information you give them over the phone. So it was kind of like you were one of the ghosts trying to be like, all right, don't eat the banana. The banana is probably poisonous.
Naturally,
just
somebody
that
just
kind of
like, what banana?
I thought it was one of the most interesting escape rooms that I'd ever played, and I really wanted to try and get our company to bring it over, but our team here was just like, that wasn't fun. And I was like, what? It's the most fun I've ever had in one of these dumb rooms.
If only they'd seen the black phone, they
Exactly.
would understand.
They would get it.
We were talking about how the Chainsaw Massacre is brought up in this. I don't know if we actually mentioned that Robin loves that movie, and that was kind of a plot point that sort of gives him the vigor at the end to fight back, because he has to for Robin, he has to end up seeing this movie in his life, and that inspires him to like stay up late, even though his dad would whip the shit out of him if he caught him watching an R-rated movie at midnight. The Chainsaw Massacre, I imagine, since it's like a 70s slasher, it probably is legitimately scary even to like adults.
Oh yeah, it's fucked up. It's a real punishing.
It's
film.
a real fucked up movie, as I understand. Even still, right? I've never seen it.
Beyond. Like it's corny in some ways because it's a very independent sort of movie, but it just has an incredibly punishing like torture scene almost, if that makes sense. That's pretty much. There's some great jump scares too. Like it's a interesting and fun movie, but it's a tough sit mostly because there's this like prolonged dinner scene where they're just like torturing a lady, and it's just. I don't know if you're the same, but if it's just a scene of somebody screaming for like a long time, that really does start to get to me, and I think that's one of its big.
I think most recently, it's not a torture scene; it's just gross. But that extended puke montage in Triangle of Sadness almost made me turn the movie off in a similar way. But I was going to ask you guys: do you have any movies? So we've talked about this a lot on the show. Every time we do a horror movie, we kind of bring up that me and Steve got into horror like later in life because I don't know if it's a combination of seeing things too early or not seeing things early in life.
Yeah, I still blame The Evil Dead. I saw that when I was
RoboCop
6 years old, and I should not have seen it. And it made me so scared to watch horror movies for a very long time. So
and Hellraiser took me a long time to actually sit through Hellraiser. Like even as like a 30, I think I was.
That
34.
one's also still kind of does its job well.
Yeah.
Especially the first one when like the Goo Man just slowly putting himself back together. It's disturbing visually.
So. Cam, I wanted to ask you specifically. We've talked about it. The three of us have all talked about this, but since you're like a movie person, is there anything that like you're not able to bring yourself to watch?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, now and again, there's definitely. I think it actually hews more to just real footage. It's kind of the fucked up thing. I've seen some pretty messed up movies. But yeah, I find a lot of goo, like a lot of pus and stuff, very gross. We watched Dead Alive recently, me and Steve, and that one pushes it with like people eating pus and shit. That grosses me out. Like people melting. There's a crazy movie called Body Melt that's like an Australian horror that I found like it really got under my skin. There's a part where like a woman is melting from inside and her like uterus falls out and then the uterus starts attacking people.
Oh my god! Not in a fun way.
No, I mean it's kind of fun, but it's also like very gross. Yeah. There's also one called Street Trash where it's like they start giving out booze to homeless people that melts them basically. For some reason, melting really gets me.
That fucks with me a little bit to think about. Actually.
Yeah, and so stuff like that. But I've also seen like. I think the movies that really haunt me have like Cannibal Holocaust. I think everybody talks about this, but the cannibal stuff isn't so bad. But they kill a turtle on screen and like alive and crack it open, and you see its like heart beating.
Oh.
That's yeah. You don't see that much, so it's like I don't watch many movies where they like torture an animal unnecessarily on screen. There's this very good Vice documentary that I don't know if it got a full release called The Engineer. That was about the only criminologist in El Salvador, I think, and they just showed dead bodies because this guy's philosophy was very much he like slept with photos of all the victims he was trying to figure out around him because he felt like seeing it and understanding it was like important. But that movie like starts with them unwrapping a kid's head in a garbage bag, and it's just like, yeah, it was interesting because you came into the theater and there's like, warning, there will be disturbing images, and you're like, yeah, whatever,
Yeah, whatever, man.
And then it's like that will haunt me until the day I die.
I've seen those ads for Paranormal Activity where they come out and they're like, that was the scare, and like the fucking night cam footage of them being like,
yeah. No, I will say Paranormal Activity 2 gave me nightmares, even though it's just fucking cabinets flapping and shit in the same way. Yeah, I don't know. Stuff. I think there is a lot of lizard brain stuff that gets under your skin.
Yeah.
Recently, actually, a very good one, just because it was such a fucking thing that happens to you all the time. There's that movie, The Night House, which was like a great, fun horror movie, but it very much is just like you seeing a shadow kind of in the corner is a bad guy, and that's gonna fuck you up like every night going to sleep. That's the shit you see. Like you cannot get away from that. And that did kind of get under my skin. But yeah, I don't know. Going into something, it's a little hard to know. But I would say extreme gore, like movies that are just kind of about the gore. Sometimes that bounces right off me because a lot of those movies are fun and funny. But sometimes it's just too, like those Japanese ones, the guinea pig movies. I don't know if you guys know those. They're like,
I've heard of these.
Yeah,
Kinda
they're
like where Human Centipede comes from.
Yeah, you know what?
sentiment.
Yes, I regret Human Centipede 1, terrible. 2, I found very repulsive and like it should not be watched, and I would never watch 3 at this point. So it's like, yeah, there is something. But I'll still try something if it's like pushing the limits of good taste. I don't know.
Cam, you just did a quick 1,000-yard stare that looked less like you were thinking of more and more.
Yeah.
I brought up a bunch of stuff to the surface by accident.
Yeah, I mean, I was just remembering parts of
Cam in bed later tonight,
fucking
staring at the cabinets. Oh, no.
Human Centipede 2. Like it does what's on the package. It's like a more repulsive, terrible Human Centipede. But I just remember that one being so like annoyingly in your face. Another baby head, I think, situation. Terrible.
I can't bring myself to watch Pink Flamingos because of a certain scene in that movie.
Yeah, that seems very gross. No question. Yeah, and you know what? Actually, Pink Flamingos has a lot of pretty disturbing content. There's a part where they fuck each other and like smash a chicken between themselves. Yeah, there's parts that you don't even know that are disgusting.
Because you're only thinking of the one famous one that everybody knows about.
I'm finally gonna get the guts up to watch it, and then I'm just gonna be like,
yeah. I mean, there's not.
I mean, it's silly throughout. Is the plus of that is it's very silly throughout. Also, the part you're thinking of is right at the end, which is nice. But also, it's very funny because I think to me you're like, well, that it's probably just, but it's like you've never seen more. There is no question that like you see it steaming come out of a dog's asshole and then into someone's mouth, which is insane.
I saw an interview with John Waters and Divine, and they were just like, John Waters is like, I just find absurd things funny. I just wanted to make people laugh. It's not to be. I'm an indie filmmaker who's trying to come up with new ways to make people laugh. And if weirdos come to my movies, that's sort of my target audience. We tried something, and
it's a good interview. I can't remember the interviewer, but he's really trying to gotcha the whole time. The both of them, and it's just deflecting off of them so easily.
I mean, they're kind of the experts at that too, is because like that's always what they love to do. I don't know. It's very, but like that transgressive stuff. I think it's always worth giving it a shot. You don't always have to like a movie, but I don't know. It's tough to know what I will not like, but yeah, torture-y stuff. I haven't seen all the Saws because they can be a little tough. What's the Collector and the Collection? Those ones.
Green Inferno, isn't that one really?
Oh yeah, I didn't. I mean,
Eli Roth,
Cannibals. Yeah, Cannibals in general. Though I did like some parts of the Hostels, but they were a little tough to watch.
Right.
But
there's a few Italian movies from like the late 70s and early 80s that I find very difficult to watch based on the practical effects that they use, just because it's kind of like the pus stuff that you were talking about. And when we watched Dead Alive, was it Dead Alive? That's what it's called? Yeah, there was a bunch of us at my house, and all of us were collectively groaning and shouting at the TV like throughout the movie, being like, "Oh my god, oh god!"
Yeah.
But like
that's kind of the fun of it, right?
That is the fun of it, because that movie didn't have me checking behind the doors in my apartment later that night, but there's a movie that came out years ago called The Fourth Kind, and that movie for some reason gave me nightmares. It's very similar to Paranormal Activity, but the way it works is it's theatrically filmed, and then they also have sort of like found footagey interview footage of like the real encounters. And you realize by the end of the movie that that's also not real, but like at the very beginning, unless you kind of researched it beforehand, you think that perhaps maybe this is real footage. And it made it successful up to a certain point in the movie where you're like, oh yeah, no, this is not real. But it had me later that night being scared of aliens again, like I was when I was a child. I was like, they scare me.
Yeah, and
I love that movie.
Oh yeah, I gotta watch that one. I still haven't seen it. Mila Jovovich.
Yeah.
I was thinking, Steve, of when you were like those Italian ones. The 1985 one, Demons, does really get under my skin, and it's a lot of like barfing, a lot of like demon fingers coming out of people's regular finger. I don't know, something. But you're right, something about the practical effects. I one that really got me that I bought as a kid. I saved up all my money to get this Dario Argento set, and Phenomena has just this shitty looking little creep kid at the end, but that gave me nightmares for a long time. It's just like a drooling, shitty practical effect, probably on a dwarf, and you're like, yeah.
I don't like this. There's probably an endless list of things that have affected me in ways that I can't remember, but there was a point in my life where I was working a night shift, and I would put on movies when I would get home, and so it would be daylight out, and sometimes you wake up really confused because you're either having a weird dream or whatever. And I can't remember the movie I was watching, but I want to say it was like something akin to Phantasm or like Phantoms or something weird. But there's a point where there are all these people and they have these worms that are like attached to their heads, and it's like sucking their brains out or something.
Oh.
But
I gotta go to the washroom, dudes. I'll be back.
Okay. I need to figure out what that movie is so that I can.
I mean, there's a lot of fantastic
Can of Worms.
Yeah, true. The Disney Channel original film.
Yeah.
There's a lot of phantasms. There's like 5 or 6, so it might be one of them.
It definitely wasn't the one with the ball that floats around that takes your brains out, but
sure.
What about the one with the purple costume?
That's Phantom.
What did you say?
Smash Evil.
Phantasm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Billy Zane punching people.
What about Batman's nemesis?
It's the mask of the Phantasm. But yeah.
Oh, sure.
It's also his girlfriend.
Wow. Spoiler alert.
Oh shit, sorry. I kind of also want to talk about how Finn is kind of dumb.
Sure.
He gets grabbed and he's so scared of the grabber he did not think twice about trying to help this guy with his broken eggs. And he even sees the balloons and does not dart. He's a baseball player. He's fast.
I would say he's freaked out by the time he sees the balloons, he knows what's up. But I think it's too late. It is weird. I mean, the one thing that I guess we can get into, and I'm interested in your guys' opinions on this. One thing I find that did stick in my craw with this movie the first time, and I forgot about, and then when it came back, is that it's like Finn is like a sensitive, slightly like effeminate young man. And this whole movie seems to be about like, you gotta nut up, brother.
Yeah.
And you gotta beat this like F slur of a mincing dandy who has you in his basement. And
True.
I kind of don't like that's the weird thing is like you have his alcoholic abusive dad, you have this abusive weirdo pedophile, and you would think that like a good message would be more like if this kid who's very sensitive found a way to like emotionally manipulate the grabber, like he is more wise, but instead it's all about like get dirt on your knuckles, you gotta beat this fucking guy to death, and the whole movie ends with like a girl being like, oh, I'm so hot for you because you killed the grabber. And it's like, oh, this is all weird. and they just like everything about the Ethan Hawke thing just plays a little gay to me, which is odd.
Yeah, and he seems to have a strange relationship with his brother. Like he's in love with him or something. It's all very uncomfortable. I guess the entire movie is uncomfortable, but his portrayal obviously is not supposed to be comfortable. But the mood swings or whatever, the emotion, the difference in emotion in his emotions throughout. It's off-putting, but it's like, it's super. He's either an aggressive man who needs to punish the naughty boys, or he's just like a weird, creepy, like fluttering guy who is sort of like you said, like walking like on a cloud as he comes down, or he's watching him while he's sleeping, or he's being playful while also being creepy. And uh yeah, that shot of Finn returning to the school, and he's like, got his chest puffed out, and he's wearing, like a more like traditionally boyish costume, and everything with Robin as well, right? Like Robin is sort of the embodiment of, you're gonna have to punch somebody in the face one day, Finn.
Yeah. It's very weird to me that the Scott Derrickson's like, this is my most personal movie, and what I learned from my abusive childhood is you gotta fucking punch your dad in the goddamn face. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that took years of therapy. It seems like your therapist would be like, no, no.
This is not a healthy film.
What did his therapist say about this movie? Like, no. I don't know.
Therapist taught him how to do a Mortal Kombat combo. That's what their sessions were. We're just playing Mortal Kombat back and forth together.
True. Yeah. Is that how you punch? Kalen, are you a fighter based on your Robin cosplay?
I just mash the buttons and I do super cool combos, and people are like, "Oh, how do you do that?" I'm like, I don't know. Just like, I know that I don't know what the combos are, but I know they're a weird sequence of all kinds of different things. So if I do all kinds of different things,
eventually you'll hit somebody with a phone.
Yeah, I'm right with you. It's like I'll throw in a couple semicircles now and again and hope for the best.
Maybe I'll shoot a fireball. I would be. I mean, obviously, it's a deeply personal thing for him, so he's not going to share it in interviews and stuff. But it would be interesting to know what the trauma that he was dealing with had to do with in order to get this story out of him.
He did say that like he's identified a few things, and I do think it's that he's said that like the child abuse, like definitely like at least a parent that was unstable, and he also did say that the bullying was definitely part of it. Right. But he actually, interestingly, I saw him also talk about how, just like you were saying, that it was kind of a violent time amongst kids. He said, like,
I think about my parents would have been around the age of these kids at that time, right? And like my dad tells me stories all the time about what his childhood was like, and how like he'd get chased home by bullies, and they'd chase him all the way to his front door, and then my grandpa would come outside and like make the bullies line up and fight my dad one by one. I'm like, Dad, this doesn't sound great.
No.
And my dad would be like happy telling that tale. I'm like, okay, I'm glad you didn't make me do that.
My mom always talks about the two that I remember is that like in rural Ontario is just that they used to always fuck around with like firecrackers and people would blow their hands off. And the one I always remember that's like such a nightmare as an adult, but as a kid you totally get the impulse, is that they would light a firecracker in someone's pocket. It's like, Jesus. You could have fucking crippled that person for life, but they're like, no, it's a prank,
It was fun, yeah.
They'll just pull it out in time, like no problem.
I put some firecrackers in my hair once.
Oh my God.
Is that what happened to all of it?
Yeah.
Oh no.
That's why you've got that headband on, keeping your brain together. That kid in our school cracked a glow stick in his eyes because he was trying to get it in his hair. And
oh my God.
That's
bad.
Yeah, he had to go to the hospital.
But if he got in his hair, though, he'd be on some Super Saiyan level shit.
It did glow. Like it did. Yeah. When you mix it up, it does glow, but you just don't get it in your eyes.
How did you guys feel about the mask design in this movie? I thought
it's cool.
Yeah.
Have you either of you ever seen the movie Onibaba? I think it's like from the old Japanese horror movie. It's like it's what it reminds me of, at least. But also I saw on the Wikipedia they say it's like Lon Chaney in that Lost movie London After Midnight, where he's like the weird grinning. Looks like it's like the ghost from the Haunted Mansion is based on it, I think.
Right.
Creepy top hat man.
Yeah, it's like right. Yeah.
I want more top hats. That's what
I wanted to say.
True, more magic. Apparently, also on the wiki, I'm just reading the Wikipedia basically, but they say that Joe Hill has proposed a sequel, and he was very inspired by The Mask, which isn't in the story, but he's like, I'd like to, whatever the next movie would be kind of about The Mask.
Right. Yeah, it does kind of look sort of like that Onibaba mask that you're.
Yeah, and that's like a cursed haunted mask in
Cursed
that horror
item.
movie.
I liked how it had the interchangeable pieces, so it was able to have this sort of different impact depending on the sequence that he was in, right? Or like the combination of the two pieces. He's done it, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry about
That's what it sounded like in the toilet.
Sorry about that, guys.
Sounded like he set a firecracker off underwater.
I've been having a weird belly day all day. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Steve.
No, we're just talking about the design of the mask.
The mask.
And how it's interesting, and
we're feeling real smoking.
I was holding off. Okay, so
all of us wear masks metaphorically speaking.
I was holding off on this because I knew that I was going to get hit. I was just kind of biding my time. And do you guys think? Sort of, you guys have just talked about this for 5 minutes, but was each phase of the mask symbolic more of phases in the progression of the story and where he was with the kid? Were they how he was feeling in that moment? Were they indicative of his mood?
I was gonna say that they're sort of representative of his emotional state, or what he's at least trying to present to Finn, right? So when you first see him in the mask, when you first see him, he has his face painted pale to resemble the mask itself, right? And then as he's carrying him down, he has that sort of blank mouth with just the regular eyes, which the only emotion you're getting out of him is anger at that point, right? Because he's mad about his arm being sliced open. So all of the emotion is coming from the voice work and body work of Ethan Hawke at that point. But then every time you see it after, it does have some sort of very clear emotion on its on the combination of the two pieces.
And then when it's finally removed, he clearly has some Batman rogue gallery thing about not having his mask on.
Yeah, it's like Rorschach or whatever, right? Where he's like, "Give me back my face!"
Yeah. Also, I'm looking and I totally forgot that the one kind of alternative other bit he has is frowny when he's like disappointed in you.
Yeah.
Real Steve's favorite hexadecimal shit.
It is hexadecimal shit. I didn't think of that then, but that's absolutely a good call.
He should do the
Me and Caleb were talking about it a little bit last night, but there's the moment where he comes down and he's trying to get him to tell the truth, and then Finn lies about his name, and he throws the food and comes out and he's got the frowny face on, right? And Kalen, I think you asked, like, how did he know that he was going to be able to use that face? Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. It's obviously cinematic, but it could also be a thing where he would have had the frowny face no matter what the answer was that Finn gave, right? Like it's presenting of his mood, and he's already upset before he goes down there, right?
I mean, he's got to have one that he wears when he has sex with the kids too, so it's probably the frown.
Jeez. Oh, maybe. Yeah, he's probably got the frown is the one. That's the one he uses.
There's just like a nut face, like a.
Not to dwell on that too much.
You have a nut bite?
He killed Steve. Not to dwell on this too much, but he definitely. Oh
God, it's just like a winking one.
Something along the lines of like, "I promise
hey,
what we're gonna do. You're going to like. You're not going to dislike everything we do."
There's like a glory hole where the mouth is just like.
A blow up doll.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay, this is disgusting, but hilarious. I think that would be. I thought you were gonna put a police siren on. Woo!
Yeah.
If there's.
Okay.
Oh God, this goes on forever.
Yeah, I knew it. I was ready to stop it.
So, if they're considering a sequel just based on the mask alone, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't said much, but like basically Scott Derrickson said Joe Hill came to him with a really good concept, and Joe Hill was inspired by the mask. So I find that interesting.
I can't imagine a version of this movie where he doesn't have the mask in it having as much impact, right? Like it's sort of like created an iconography in its own a single movie, which is kind of tough to pull off, right? Like it usually takes many sequels before you can look at something and go, oh, that's ominous, or that's it's doing the job immediately, right?
Yeah, it's cool.
What'd you say, Kalen?
OIP.
OIP?
I don't know what that means.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I thought it meant original intellectual property.
Oh. Sure. You're
I thought
right.
you were making some sort of innuendo.
In her
I was
endo.
gonna say that the interesting thing about the mask too is it's designed by Tom Savini, who's like getting up
Okay.
there, but that's pretty cool.
Tom
Yeah.
Savini, of course, well known for many movies.
Yeah,
most
gore effects mostly.
gore effects. Most recently, most of The Walking Dead, he did and directed a lot of that. And then if you're a professional wrestling fan, Bray Wyatt or The Fiend, he developed the mask for that as well. So he's been
And
working up till now.
if you're a fan of dumb shit in movies, he's the guy with the penis gun in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Was he the one that
Probably.
choreographed the fight in Friday the 13th?
Oh yeah, maybe he did a lot of Friday the 13th, so that's kind of his franchise.
I think the next one we're watching is his biggest, which is 4, right? I think that's when he isn't
right.
like the. Is it 4 or 5? The one
We're on
with
4.
I can't remember which one 4 is, though. Yeah.
4 is the one with Corey Feldman, I think, as a kid.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's the
Oh,
beginning of the main lore, I think.
The
But that whole
Feldman, yeah.
that whole character, the Tommy Jarvis character, is sort of like inspired by Tom Savini because he makes like monster masks and stuff in his
Right,
bedroom and
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
right?
You should see if maybe he has a proto grabber in there. You
Oh!
just,
Keep your eyes open,
peeled.
folks.
That
Yeah.
would be cool.
Keep your
yeah.
eyes out for the proto grabber.
Yeah.
That actually brings us to a segment in the show where I get to shine. It's Jason Theory Corner.
Hit him with the sound bite.
No! It's him! Run! He's got his theories! They're all so terrible!
Oh god. Maybe a little too long. I need
Yeah,
to
you
make
made
a shorter version of
You
that.
made that way too long. But I love it. My theory corner this week is I don't have a theory corner. I just wanted to play the sound. If anything, I was ruminating a lot on the reveal that he has 2 homes. And I feel like... So I did have a theory corner before the movie ended, and it was going to be that like his brother knew all along, but because he prolonged use of cocaine and stuff, he was just like... He had the reality buried down or something. It was a crazy reveal that he figured it out. That was probably my favorite part of the movie, where the pin is on the home and he's like,
Yeah.
then that means...
And then Pink Floyd steps in to take you home.
Yeah. No, I don't actually have a fully fledged theory this week, because this movie does a really good... I had theories throughout the movie, but this movie does a really good job at like setting things up early that you don't think are going to get paid off, but then everything's paid off. There aren't a lot of loose strings.
Mm-hmm.
I got a loose string for you. Why wouldn't you just put that roll of carpet up against the wall and climb up to the window?
Well, we've already established that Finn is an idiot.
Finn is kind of a
Yeah.
dummy. He's also very like insecure. He doesn't come up with any of his own ideas. Although revered by his classmates for some reason.
Well, he's got a mint arm.
But he's got a mint arm, and the fucking kid, the actual hero of the story, the kid straight out of the Goonies crew.
Yeah, I mean they're all kind of goony kids. I was wondering, so they do. There's a lot of moments in the movie that are broadcasting the fact that the cocaine brother is sitting above this grabber.
They literally
hole.
do that pan.
Yeah.
But I don't think the first time I watched the movie, it clicked in my head that was supposed to be a literal camera movement to underneath the house. I thought it was just doing sort of some creative camera work to be like, and then elsewhere below Earth is Finn.
Sleeping again and not trying to get out of there.
Yeah, and then once
Drinking toilet water.
there's like another moment where you hear that there is literally another person in the house, and you're like, okay, so I guess that's supposed to be the same house. But they do a good job of not telegraphing every single piece of geography inside the house when he's trying to escape, right? It's all very tight on just Finn and him blocking the door, so you never get a full sort of layout to totally piece it together in your head. So when you see it Max, it's always fully well lit, and then when you see Finn walking through there, it's always very dark. But I think that the moment, obviously, where he's like, "Shut up, Max, go back to bed," I'm like, okay, well, it's over. But I was wondering if you guys had figured that out earlier than I did, or if, like me, you felt like a fool, being like, "Oh wait, what? Oh god."
That he was in the house?
Yeah, it took me longer than I would care to admit that he was in the same house as the cocaine man.
When they introduced him, I was like, that's weird. I can't remember if they say that he's his brother at that point, or if he mentions...
Yeah, he's his brother in town visiting or something.
Like, they mention it, and then when you see him, he's a brand new character, and I was fixated on the fact that he was Dennis Ramon, or whatever his name is. What's name?
James Ransone.
Yeah. That I was like, man, like, he's got to be a big deal. But I didn't realize till they panned down, also, that that's for sure.
Well, that's the moment that you know, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I didn't piece it together until a little bit later, once they're really sort of like through a bullhorn, being like, he's in the basement of the cocaine man's house.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing with the brother that I feel like isn't quite in the movie as much, but in the short story, it's kind of like the grabber is kind of fucking up because of the brother. Like the brother was an unexpected person, and that's throwing off his usual grabber behavior.
He has somebody in his front like living room trying to figure out the mystery.
Yeah,
and just like hooting the biggest pot. And the interesting thing is, he is a cokehead in the short story as well, which is funny. But it's like, yeah, I kind of like that, and it's interesting that they didn't do it. Because I think it's a little more like, yeah, not letting the audience in on it, because it is a fun red herring.
It also the fact that he's a crazy cocaine maniac, it makes it so that anything and everything that he says to the police immediately is going to be brushed aside as the ramblings of a coke man.
He's very, if you guys have not seen Sinister 2, he is kind of like the main, and he's again playing it kind of that wacky heightened. He's the surviving person from Sinister 1, which also, this is a Sinister re-team because he's in the Hawks in Sinister 1 too.
Yeah.
But he's quite funny. That obviously Scott Derrickson likes that weird energy of this actor that's like in a horrible horror situation but being kind of silly.
A goofbag, yeah.
Not to bring up It's Always Sunny again twice in the same episode, but it did very much remind me of Charlie when he's in the basement in the mailroom trying to find Pepe Silva. It's Pepe Silva. All these things come to Pepe Silva, and nobody knows who Pepe Silva is. And Mac's like, it's Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And the smoking man's there, and he looks over, he looks back, and he's not there anymore. It's fucking, I love that show. Let's just do a podcast about It's Always Sunny, but it doesn't go on the internet. We just talk about It's Always Sunny on Zoom.
I was going to say that you're going to have competition from the one by the guys from the show.
The only one that matters, that will ever matter. Although, funnily enough, they like don't really talk about the show that much. Because it's like when we try to do a comedy show on this podcast, where we're just like talking about just listing the funny parts. There's not a whole lot going on.
Yeah, it's not a great discussion usually.
Yeah, It's Always Sunny is very much that kind of show where they just like they talk about the bigger set pieces or the bigger moments. But
or stories about when they're shooting, but also people reacting to their own work is often more interesting than other people reacting to it.
Yeah,
you guys are gonna love my birthday month.
Oh God, it's all comedies again, isn't it?
It wasn't all comedies last time.
I'm calling in sick for the month of November.
Kalen's cavalcade of stunted comedies.
Yeah, you guys will finally watch Fart the movie.
But the movie from Idiocracy.
Oh man,
we're not too far from Idiocracy.
This movie actually got pretty good responses from all levels of criticism.
Doesn't it have like a sitting around a 70 on?
And that was like 76 or something.
Yeah,
that's good though. That's like not a poor rating.
Horror movie.
What is this?
That's very good for horror
13. I forgot to check. Do you guys know what the rating is on this?
No, it's got to be.
I don't know. Do they say fuck?
They say fuck a bunch of times. She calls him a fucking dumb fucking.
They say
knocker.
punta.
And she says cunt a bunch of times.
It's 14A in Canada, R in the US.
We're a little bit more liberal up here.
Yeah,
we don't huck around writing R like it's Banana style.
Our prime minister's a grabber.
You really are a proud boy.
Yeah. Just kidding. Pierre Paulevre is the grabber. Am I right?
He wants to grab you by the pussy.
Grab my gender? I don't know. I don't understand what he wants.
He's gonna grab all your money and give it to Galen Weston. Sorry, that was too political for this pod.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, sound the alarm.
Grab the rails.
Yeah,
Grab the alarm.
what are your fans like if not Canadian grocery content?
Bagged milk.
How much for a bag of milk?
Stinky poop. Poopies. Funny poopies. La 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 la. Funny poop.
That was for you, Cam. I know you like.
That was a recording of
Stinky.
Jason earlier when he went to the washroom.
Yeah.
The budget for this movie was pretty low, though. 14 million, I think, is what it was here. 16 to 18 million, and it made 161.
Holy shit! This movie's
great.
a fucking outstanding success on the same level as like Halloween with those numbers.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there was kind of that drought of horror, for a while there.
Yeah. And now you got one coming out every day, like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Oh my god.
I watched it.
Of course you did. Of course you did. I can't believe you guys haven't done a podcast.
Well, here's the thing about those movies. I feel like the really shitty horror movies, we'd almost have to do a Red Letter Media, like what Half in the Bag, where we talk about a few movies, because I can't talk for 1 hour
Winnie the Pooh for an hour
about Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, let alone.
Sure.
I'm sure you could. It's pretty cool. He controls bees. He
I love
waves
bees.
his hand and bees come out of the forest.
That's
and kill
awesome.
people.
Did you ever say "put put put" feels like rain?
He doesn't speak at all the entire movie.
Oh, that sucks.
Boring.
His brain is melted or whatever.
This book has no pictures.
You guys are going to talk about Sound of Freedom, though, right? Yeah.
Of
Praise to the
course,
masses.
we're gonna do a whole Sound of Freedom month.
I mean, what can I say about Sound of Freedom that it doesn't say for itself?
We do that movie about the kids bullying that guy with the American flag. The other one.
Oh
that
yeah,
came out.
true. Yes.
I think there's a Neil Breen one about that. Adjacent
Sure.
to that, there's
a Neil Breen movie coming out this year. I'm excited.
I'm out of town, sadly, but
Darn.
You're out of town. I just imagine it being in theaters for like 4 months. You're like, I'm out of town. I know they'll only show it.
Sadly, it's one night only.
Yeah, I know they'll only show it like twice.
Well, yeah, because he the way he does his movies is like you have to buy the right to show it at a theater, and then hopefully you make back the money yourself via ticket sales and whatnot, right?
He does like a pre-room.
Yeah, he just you can show my movie, but you have to pay me $5,000, and then he'll do that like all over the country and continent. He's an endlessly interesting person. Like I just cannot. I don't understand. He's either a genius or he's so disconnected from reality that everything that comes out of his mouth is like art.
Yeah, he could be a performance artist.
Yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes when you're watching. You're like, is he making fun of us? Like maybe he's making fun of us because we're making fun of him. Who knows? I don't really have a ton more left to say about the Black Phone, though. I don't know if anybody else has more notes. I've gone through most of my notes here.
I'm just going.
Ring, answer it. Kid,
Hey, let's play
in your
Broken
town.
Telephone.
Can't play Broken Telephone if we're all looking at each other, Kalen.
Yeah, we all can hear each other through the microphone.
Oh, I like that because they made the kids diverse that he murdered. He just looks kind of like a white supremacist.
Yeah,
right.
The only kids are not white. These two not white people in town.
Yeah, he didn't go after those shitty the bully trio that were yelling F slurs and probably saying.
I do find it hard to believe that he was able to take down Vance. Vance was a knife fighting maniac.
Pinball wizard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But who knows? Maybe Vance was a lot smaller than we know because you don't really ever see him next to anybody else.
Yeah,
That's
they also
an adult.
They all kind of say that Finn lasted way longer than all of them. So I wonder if he just killed the other guys quicker.
No, they tried to escape. They played Naughty Boy.
See, he didn't play Naughty Boy. What I wrote a note that if you guys have seen the poster of Sinister, it also is about a filthy wall with a crack in it, and I'm like, what's this guy's obsession with filthy wall cracks?
Maybe he was stuck in a basement for a few hours as a kid and just.
Maybe his most personal film. I like the breathing phone. I think that was pretty cool when the phone's breathing.
Yeah, that felt sort of like David Lynchy kind of stuff happening where it brings into question everything like about the reality of his situation, right? Like he could just be having a mental breakdown and not actually talking to ghosts.
That
but
was another
how do
thing
you
I
know
was
about
gonna-
certain things?
That was another Jason's theory corner, but it was too obvious that maybe none of this shit's happening. The phone is just in the room and it's ringing and he can hear it, but it's not really ringing, and that's why the ghosts tell him that the man in the mask, the grabber, doesn't want to hear the ringing, and it's all happening inside of his head. But that's almost too obvious.
Yeah, and there's too much
theory.
evidence to the contrary that
Exactly.
he's able to find things that he would other ways never know that would be
Dig
there.
through the wall.
Yeah, there's
It's
a
kind of
fridge.
wild. Though. How does that kid even know that? How do any of the
Yeah.
ghosts know that?
Just trying everything possible.
Yeah.
The special
Maybe you can go through the walls as a ghost.
Yeah, true.
the special effect for the hole in the wall was like too perfect, I noticed. It was like a perfect square that lined up perfectly with the vent on the back of the fridge.
Yeah.
True.
Well,
Which is a dumb
18
nitpick.
million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess if a ghost is guiding you, you can dig a perfect hole.
Oh.
I took a lot of notes, but I'm going over my notes, and it was mostly me just writing out the movie, which helps me remember the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the main set piece at the end is the the classic sort of Silence of the Lambs, you're at the wrong house kind of thing. But luckily, I mean, I guess that's to set up tension, right, of the end fight. But it's not super necessary, and it doesn't really add a lot. But I guess it also sort of explains why he's able to get away with certain things that he wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Yeah, I also think that that's another John Wayne Gacy thing, because I'm not super familiar with the case, but I remember they were pretty sure it was him for a long time, and it took them forever to figure out. The bodies were somewhere weird. They were like under his porch or
Yeah, they were
something.
under his house.
He was basically, he had like a closet with a crawl space in it that was earth beneath it, and he would excavate all this dirt and then say, because it was smelling like death.
Yeah.
So people in the neighborhood are like, "What does that smell?" And he's like, "There's a leak, the septic tank or something under the house over here." And nope, it was corpses, corpses of twinks.
Corpses of twinks.
Yeah.
Forgetting my Sufjan Stevens lyrics. I don't know. He has a John Wayne
Stevens,
Gacy
that's a
song.
wild fucking reference.
He's got a John Wayne Gacy song that has yeah.
Yeah, that's the I feel like the short story was written, like I said earlier, like with that whole like urban legendy kind of specifically the van one, which I think it does come from the John Wayne Gacy dressed as a clown.
And the dropping your groceries was a Ted Bundy thing, because that's also why it's also what or the fake cast also in Silence of the Lambs. It's like the same thing.
How old is the short story?
Not that old, I don't think. Actually, it's because Joe Hill's only like 30.
Okay. Joe Hill's only 30 now?
No, I don't know. He's probably 45 now.
Yeah. It's like he really looked like, I know that I get that it's genetics and I look a lot like my own dad, but
2007, so it's been a while.
But I expected to be from like the 80s or 90s.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know how old he is.
Well, it's one of those things where like Stephen King is not
he's
as
51.
old as you think, right? Okay.
Yeah, all right. Stephen King's 75. He's 51.
Crazy, because like you think it just, I guess, shows how young Stephen King is when his work started getting turned into stuff.
Totally. Right? And I mean, I guess Joe Hill is kind of the age of when he's writing like The Shining about having kids and being a shitty dad.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of doing hooting lines of cocaine.
Yeah. We all know that Joe Hill was conceived by the magic of cocaine and whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a glass.
Lots of people there. We kind of went over Gwen's powers. They don't make a lot of sense. They're kind of like they're like the ex machina, kind of move the story along.
Yeah, storytelling powers.
Yeah,
you need them. You need them, or else the story doesn't make sense. But also, again, like I said, you don't really need her plot in order for any of it to work, right? It's more there just to sort of show what's going on outside of the basement, so that we can take a break.
Also, they needed a good actor in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Ethan Hawke and I don't even know the actor's name who plays Finn, but
Ethan Hawke is like
Mason Thames.
Ethan
I
Hawke
think
is like
they
great
both do a
in
really
this
good
movie
job.
because he has to do that thing. It's like Pedro Pascal. You got to do a lot of body acting when you're in the Mandalorian suit. You know, he's just doing voice acting and body acting, and it's very subtle body acting. But I really like his different changes of voice. And Ethan, it reminds me a little bit of Ethan Hawke plays the bad guy in Moon Knight. It kind of reminded me of that performance a little bit too, where he's kind of a stoic character who waits for things. He literally waits for Finn to escape because he knows that he's going to try to escape. And there's that whole notion of like he's playing naughty boy, which is so fucked.
Yeah.
You know,
I just imagine Max though coming out to take a piss in the middle of the night and finding Ethan Hawke in the kitchen with like a crazy mask on, like sleeping with a
his
baseball
shirt
bat.
The interesting thing, like looking up at the press for this is actually the first movie where Ethan Hawke ever played a villain, and he said he used to have a thing of never playing the villain, but I guess he said he turned 50 and was like, maybe that could be my old man thing.
Well,
Be a villain,
yeah.
that's a really good point because when I saw him in Moon Knight, I realized you don't see him be a bad guy very often. I didn't realize he intentionally doesn't play bad guys.
Yeah, I didn't realize it until I looked at this stuff either. And like, it's interesting because he's kind of leaned into being a bit of a character actor in the past couple decades. But like, he shows up in like Valerian, City of a Thousand Planets for like a hot second. But it is interesting to know. Oh yeah,
So you haven't checked it out before the devil knows you're dead. That's where it's at.
Oh yeah, good one.
He's in Fire in the Sky, isn't he too? Or is it? Am I thinking?
No,
of
that's
else?
you know, it kind of looks like him, but it's Charlie Sheen, I think, isn't it?
Charlie Sheen's in Fire in the Sky.
No, which is the Charlie Sheen one? I think I'm thinking of the other one.
It's
like it's an ensemble, right? There's like
DB
five guys.
Sweeney. Oh, Peter Berg, maybe.
Peter Berg.
He's
That's
the one
guy.
that looks like. Okay, what's the Charlie Sheen alien abduction movie?
Are you thinking
it's,
of Scary Movie
Arrival.
4, where it's
Oh,
just
The
a parody
Arrival,
of The Sixth
yes.
Sense?
No, I'm thinking of The Arrival.
Also, Henry Thomas kind of looks a little bit like one of the Sheen brothers.
Oh, for sure,
like
yeah,
the Lost Sheen.
Also, yes, Scary Movie 3, classic.
Well, dudes, should we go into final thoughts? I don't... Cam, I gotta say, buddy, me and Steve talked about this earlier. I really wish we could have had you on a more thinker. That's why I was trying to come up with, like...
I mean, I'm not smart.
I know, but... Sorry, that's not the reaction I was reacting to. I thought you were going to say something like, I just wanted to hang out with you guys. I do think you're smart.
I value your friendship and whatever. But no, listen, I chose this movie. It was this or next week, and I was slightly more into this one.
Okay, cool. But I would like to have you back on a movie where maybe we pick a movie for you and build a month around it that we've done for a couple people already, or maybe even we just talk about a movie that's more of a thinker. Because when we talk about...
I'm gonna come back in November for Porky's with Kaylin's birthday picks.
We're doing all the Porky's movies. Kaylin's Porky month.
Should be Porky's 2 the next day, the one where they claim it's the next day, but it's like 10 years later, and all the guys like old as shit.
Yeah. 2 Porky's movies, 2 ski
Halloween
school
2.
movies. Cool. So if you don't know already, we go into our final thoughts at this point. I've noticed that this folder that Steve has shared with me has a final thoughts sound. I'm hearing this for the first time. So here we go.
It's time for our final thoughts.
I hope we don't get DMCA'd for these sounds, is what I'm realizing. But
I think they're short enough that we'll be okay.
Original?
Yeah.
Oh.
No,
I did not
from
compose the music from America's Funniest Home Videos.
But it is our final thoughts segment. Since you're a new guest, Cam, basically you just give your sort of in summation about the movie, and we have a little bit of a game, I guess we call what went well, even better. You just say what you liked about the movie and something that you would maybe change or improve upon. And since I've just given you the task, I'll let you go first, because if somebody did this to me, and then I went fourth, I would be like, what? So let it rip.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally, I think this is an all right movie. Like you say, it's a bit of a tonally weird one, and I don't necessarily know that some of the drama, which I think is effective, really matters for the horror stuff. But it's a unique enough movie. We talked a little earlier that I do have weird, like, deep reading problems with it, where I think it's like a real smear the queer narrative, all about being like you got to be a tough heterosexual
It is a
man
little
and
bit.
not a effeminate grabber. But that's fine. That's the world. Um, so yeah, I think what it does really well is I guess just kind of tell a sort of unique story. Like it is weird and like I as we say, I really love a movie that kind of sets up and knocks down dominoes, and this does this very well. Any thriller where it's like it lingered too long on that knife on the floor, and you're like, I can't wait for the knife to come back, and that's all this is. It's just bangers like that for the last like 15 minutes. Um, yeah, maybe a little more connection between the sister and brother story. Uh, like I say, I also do think that what it could have done better is probably find it's not really saying anything about like abuse and trauma,
Yeah.
even though it has this through line. And I do wish that there was something there, like it was empowering in some way, or like that maybe rather than seeming cool at the end, this kid is like hollowed out by trauma because hey, he's been fucking grabbered and he killed a man with his bare hands. Like
Or
that's you're not gonna be cool at school probably.
if we at least
Might
saw somebody get hollowed out, that would be sick.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would also love if it was like I would be fine with a handful more jump scares. I'll be honest. Yeah, could have had ghosts popping out and shit, and maybe he's afraid of the ghosts at first, and then they become nice. I don't know. But it's yeah, it's an alright movie, and I do think that the average horror fan will probably get something out of it, even if they don't love it. Thank you.
Nailed it.
I used it properly. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Cam. Steve, why don't you hit us next with your final thought? Dun 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 dun. Wait.
Yeah, no, I agree with pretty much everything that Cam mentioned. I had a good time with this movie, but I do think that the subject matter could potentially be taken as too light for some viewers, especially people who connect with it. Because I do think that not being grabbered and locked in a basement, but the idea of sexual assault is triggering to some people, and it connects to a lot more people than you might think. So it's always kind of tricky when you make a movie that deals with it so sort of black and white. They never really specifically bring up that kind of stuff in the movie, obviously for a good reason, because it would be maybe a little bit too heavy in terms of subject matter. So like, let's just have a creepy imply that he's a pervert and not ever actually show him
Yeah.
or say that he does. Even in the police reports at the end, it doesn't specifically say that he was doing anything to that nature to his victims. But I mean, I did like some of the cinematography throughout as well. I thought it was pretty interesting, though I hate sort of digitally dimming things, so I was kind of complaining about that. And it to a point that it felt not ethereal and odd looking for any other purpose other than it just seemed like they wanted to make it look creepier. I think the mask is super cool, and Cam, you bringing up the fact that they might do a sequel based just around the mask as a cursed artifact or item is pretty cool to me, and exciting, because I think that even just the poster alone, you look at that and you're like, if anything else, I'll be unsettled by this weird mask. But the fact that it can be interchanged, hexadecimal from my favorite show ever, Reboot, is cool and interesting to me, and I like it a lot. The movie overall, I think, like you said, I think that if you're even just sort of like a half-hearted horror film buff, you'll have something to like in this movie, because it is efficient in all of its storytelling. Even though I would have probably liked to have seen a little bit more of maybe some explanation into the sister's powers, or what her mom's powers were like. Was her mom predicting murders, and
Mm.
like why did she kill herself because of it? That kind of stuff was intriguing to me, but it was never really fleshed out. So it sort of felt like a loose end that could have maybe been tied up a little bit more cleanly. But in terms of the main body of the storytelling, I think it was good. And talking to ghosts, setting you up your own Home Alone layer up, cool. I like it. And I'll give this movie a half a smiley mask. You don't get the eye portion. You just get the mouth portion.
Oh yeah, sorry Cam, I forgot to mention if you have any sort of rating system, if it's jokey, if it's out of 10, if it's out of 5.
I give a phone 3/4 full of dirt.
Excellent. All right, fantastic. Kaylin, it's your turn to give us your final thoughts.
Why, thank you. And I'm going to start off by saying I don't think this movie was made for me. Maybe if I was 13 or 14, I would have enjoyed it much more. I didn't feel there was anything groundbreaking, just a rehash of some familiar events drawn from familiar sources. I do honestly think that I would have liked it a lot, though, if I was younger, because it does have a lot of the elements that I do like. For my what went well, I have to give it to Gwen, Madeleine. I don't remember her last name. She was my favorite thing of this whole movie. She was awesome. Blew me away. My even better, there's a lot of things we could name, but one thing I decided to name was the continuity at the end when Gwen gets to the 4471 and we're looking at her from like the house and we can see the house across the street and there's no black van in the driveway or anything. Cops come, it's the wrong place, whatever, and then they find Finn. He comes out, and then there is a black van there.
Yeah.
And that's it. Oh, wait, no, it's not it. Wait, 1 second. Okay, so for me personally, I'd say it's a pass, but 13-year-old me would say go give it a watch. I give it a watered-down Bloody Mary and MPAA 53-351.
Wow, we're only 1,000 movies away from The Flash, which I watched today. We're in the we're this is the real what the fuck
now
is
with
this?
the strike we can make that ground up easy.
It's true. We only have we've done almost 100 movies. 50,000, 8 million. Okay. Thank you, Kaylin. That was I liked your review this week. Watered down Bloody Mary. That's fucking good. Okay. Overall, pretty enjoyable movie, I would say. It isn't super scary, more unsettling. I had kind of a Stranger Things vibe, but overall, it did like a completely different thing. The thing that was striking to me is it seems to be based on the stories I heard as a kid of a clown and a van snapping up kids, which we talked about. I believe this was John Wayne Gacy's MO, so that could have been a bit of the inspiration for this film. We also talked about that. The precocious daughter having psychic stuff and swearing like she is from Deadwood was also a joy. I wish one of us had written down all the ways that she combined words. All I have is she called the cops like
dumb fart knockers.
Dumb fart knockers, which I think is so good.
That was definitely the best one, I think.
She called somebody a cunt too at one point.
Yeah.
Which was
she yells. She sells "quit you cunts" to the bullies. She's way more creative than the bullies.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Decent film and with good horror stuff. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I'm not budging on that this week. I wasn't compelled to change it in either way. It's not a very hard 3.5, but I'm kind of rating it based on like it's a watchable movie that I didn't want to I didn't feel like ugh. Like when that break in between, sometimes if I split a movie into two, sometimes that split in between is like, oh, I gotta go back and continue watching this thing, and I put it off. And that ties into what Steve says about you should watch a movie all in one because they're going for a thing.
Listen, I've said it a million times. I'm not going to reiterate. We all know that movies are meant to be watched in one sitting, not broken.
Jason, I watch them sometimes. You can put down a fucking book and go back to it, and you're fine.
Okay, it's true. It's
Hit him with the sound bite.
Cam, I've watched you. Which one?
I've said it a million times.
Yeah, fart noise. Okay. All right.
That was too realistic.
Okay, stop it, Swedish kid. Thank you. I give this movie Doing Lines of Blow to figure out where the good horror movie was, but it was in the basement instead. I also give this a basement full of dead kids, but finally one is badass enough to escape.
Nice.
And
Beautiful.
that is my... I've been doing 2 fake reviews now just to sort of appease these 2 because they gave me such a hard time for a long time about just doing the out of 5. But now I'm forced to write jokes. So there you go, internet. Thank you, everybody. This has been another edition of Hey, did you see this one? Candy is your name. Would you like to promote or plug anything?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you want to follow me on any social thing, I'm at CamFest. And yeah, like I say, I work for the Canadian movie channel Hollywood Suite. If you're in Canada, you can get it on Amazon Prime or through your cable provider. It's just like less than a cup of coffee, you know, the usual. $5 a month, and you get like.
What's the best?
Oh no, these people are laughing.
It's so oh my god, it's not stopping. What were you saying, Caleb?
What's the fest for?
What?
Like confess.
Like confess.
Oh, like confess, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like it's dumb. It was a bad idea. Yeah, that's basically it. And if you go to our YouTube channel or our TikTok, there's lots of content with me talking about movie history. I also have a podcast called A Year in Film through Hollywood Suite, where we talk about a year and some of the movies from that year. And there's a TV show of it too. Just everything.
That's awesome. So you're going to invite all of us onto your television channel, right?
They have a kind of too many white guys, and I'm the white guy that would get fired. So
I don't know anything about that
policy.
as I look around at the diversity of, a piece of bread this week. White bread, if you will.
Different kinds of beards and
Old,
mustaches.
moldy bread.
We already said different kinds of beards and mustaches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kalen's,
Some of us might be circumcised.
maybe. Who knows? I'll never tell.
I volunteer as tribute.
I was gonna literally just tell, but also I want to leave a mystery for the fans. Cam, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Taking the time out.
Also, to all the viewers out there, don't forget to check out the Instagram page and check out that post to win yourself a hoodie.
And win yourself a
Ooh.
hoodie. And this has been another.
Dan, what's your favorite color?
I don't know, black probably. Like the phone.
I better have to pay for any of this. I guess that's it then. So for Kaylin and for Steven and for Cam, I'm Jason.
For Jason, for Kaylin, for Cam, I'm Steven.
For Jason and Steven and Cam, I'm Kellen.
I don't have to do this, do I?
No, you don't. And we ask the same question we ask each and every week, and that is, hey, did you see this one?
Hey, see this one?
That was me telling you.
I did. We did the thing.
I didn't understand the request in the group chat. I thought you wanted us to send a picture, and he was going to make a cool, picture.
Yeah, we
of
are,
us.
but then later we were talking about how we're going to do just one of
I just don't think that all of us need to say, hey, did you see this one? It's redundant.
Cam, say
Let's
something
do it
funny
once.
quick.
Hey, I saw that one.